Welcome to Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast. UFC 222, Cyborg versus Kunitskaya. And before we get into that, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe, like, head kick that bell icon so when we drop content, you will know we're doing it. And we're all about three things: entertainment, UFC, and gambling. If you like that, trust me, you want to be a part of this channel, and we're going to be doing another giveaway very soon, so stick around, and we will be discussing that in the coming videos. So, now let's talk about UFC 222, and for me, obviously, we're not going to get into the main event. We're trying to find places where we're going to be able to put our money in. I've got 3 plays on this card that I'm going to be doing a unit or more on, and then I'll have my best bet pick at the end. But I do have some plays where I'm going to be throwing a half a unit or somewhat around that to just have action on it. That I believe maybe there's some value there. But we're going to get into the card. First one, obviously, Cyborg, Kunitskaya, there's no real value there. There's not even fun money that you can throw on Kunitskaya at this point. She's going to be well overmatched. She's not ready for this. The card had been, shifted around a lot. She was the person that's going to be put in front of Cyborg to save the card and not save her own life, because this is going to be an execution in this main event. So, obviously, I believe Cyborg will get this victory. But the people's main event is Frankie Edgar versus Brian Ortega, and that's our first, where we're going to do a half a unit in this fight. Now, looking at these two guys, I mean, obviously Frankie Edgar, world-class fighter. He's fought the best of the best, beaten some of the best of the best. At more of the end of his career, we've got Brian Ortega, jiu-jitsu specialist, is now coming in, and he's going to be the guy that's stepping in for Max Holloway. This is not an interim belt match, just because Holloway is only going to be out for a couple months, month and a half, I guess is roughly what they're saying. If it's over 6 months, that's when an interim belt is put into play. So this is still basically that, because the winner of this is going to fight Max Holloway. And I give Frankie Edgar a lot of credit. Coming into this fight, he didn't have to fight him. He could have just said, listen, I'll fight in 2 months. We'll get this going again versus Holloway. But Edgar, being the OG that he is, says, listen, I'm fighting March 3rd. Put someone out there and let's get it done. So I give him a lot of credit going out there, especially against a tough guy like Brian Ortega. Now, I got a soft spot for Brian Ortega. I bet him with Cub Swanson. Obviously got the victory there. And for me, I said, right after I watched it, I said, whoever Brian Ortega faces next, I'm betting. I'm betting Brian Ortega. Whoever Brian faces, I am betting Brian Ortega. He's going to get that victory. Didn't know it was going to be Frankie Edgar, but he's at this point facing a very elite guy in Frankie Edgar. Frankie Edgar is 7-1 in his last 8. He's got unbelievable cardio. He's just got that volume of strikes that he goes out there and he just unleashes. His takedown ability is amazing. His wrestling obviously is elite. I mean, he's such a great, well-rounded fighter, which is why he's been in this game for so long. Now, Brian Ortega is a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu specialist. He is, to put it in terms, he is, that is his thing, obviously. I mean, that is where he goes. He's like a Damian Maia, but I believe he is actually going to be better than Damian Maia in the long run of it. They're both such specialists at their craft, but Ortega is really starting to learn the fact that, and he had said in an interview that I was watching, he said, listen, I knew from early on that I can't just be the guy that, hey, if you can't get him down, the jiu-jitsu guy is going to lose. He goes, I know I can't do that. You've seen his striking get a little bit better. Obviously, it's not at the level where it really needs to be, but you can tell he's building the combinations. He's comfortable standing on his feet. Sometimes, Damian Maia, when he throws standing and he's throwing, it's slow. You can tell he's not really, there's not much behind it. And to me, it's just, you don't really see as much. Obviously, he is sensational on the ground, but striking he's not, and obviously that is where Brian Ortega is going to have to stand here in this fight against Frankie Edgar. I believe Edgar is not going to look for right away the takedown. He's going to stand. He's going to try to keep it standing. He believes that he's going to be able to outstrike him standing. I believe that Ortega has the opportunity here to get this victory. There is, without a doubt, there is an opportunity for him to get this. Frankie is 36. He's heading near the end of his career. I mean, obviously he has not fell off at all when he's won 7 of his last 8. I mean, that's not, you know, he's always fighting the elite of the elite because that's where he is in the UFC. But I believe Brian Ortega is going to be able to get this victory, find a way to win against Brian Ortega. And again, I'm not as confident in this pick. I'm going to do half a unit on this. I believe the value's there at plus 145, 150, depending where you're getting it. I believe he's got an opportunity there. It's going to be an exciting fight to watch. Only doing a half a unit, have the action on it, but I believe I'm going to stick with what I had said. Whoever Brian Ortega fights, I'm betting, kind of going off of that. So, you know, proceed with caution, but I believe that this is, you know, Ortega can get that victory in a tough fight against Frankie Edgar. Now we're going to look at Sukumta versus O'Malley. Now in this fight I did, this is a 1 unit bet for me here of the 3 bets that I'm going to be talking about, my main bets. Now this bet for me here, I went back, I looked at their last 3 fights, each of them. Obviously O'Malley came from the Contender Series, got the big knockout there, a kind of a walk-off knockout, and then was fought where that was a tougher fight for him. That first round, he came out, I mean, he's got great kicks. I mean, he's got great combinations, spinning back fist, spinning heel kicks, front kick. You know, he's able to really, and the thing that I really like about him is he changes his stance constantly. He's southpaw, then he's orthodox. He's southpaw, then he's orthodox, and he continues to shift that up and throw leg kicks from different angles. And you can see him. You can see that it's very tough for any opponent to try to be able to counter something like that where you don't know where the kicks or the punches are coming from. So I really like that he does that, as well as the volume that he pushes out. Each of those fights, he's throwing a lot. He's consistently throwing a lot. That first round, he was able to get the first. He won the first round against Ware. Second round is exactly what scares me about O'Malley, is the fact that a lot of pressure from Ware was able to push him up against the fence, able to keep him close, and when that happened, Ware was doing damage. He was doing damage, and it almost looked like O'Malley was gassing, and too much of an output can be a bad thing, of course, but you've got to be more economical with your energy. So hopefully he learned a little bit something from that. But then that second round, he got battered, and that third round, he came back and he's doing the same thing. He dug deep, and that to me showed a lot as well, that he's able to dig deep in a tough situation where obviously the fight was 1-1 in rounds. He won the first one, lost the second one, and at that point he came out victorious, got the decision victory, and I think that was such a great learning experience for O'Malley as a young guy coming up. He is a trash talker. He's obviously building his character and the hype for the UFC, which of course helped him get from the Contender Series onto a main card in the UFC in such a short time, but he has that ability. Now Sukumta, he is 1-2 since entering the UFC. He's got a record of I think it's about 12-5. So you know he's got some ability there. His striking is good. He's got some power behind it. He's got some pop on those hands there. He looked a little tentative though in his last fight. And going back in the last 3 fights, Morales, he had a close split decision loss, which was a tough fight, but a close split decision loss. Alejandro Perez, another tough loss for him, split decision. He looked very timid in that fight. He didn't look like he kept throwing the heavy jab, dropping him, but there were points where he just didn't explode. He just did not explode in that fight. Ended up getting the loss there. I think he had an opportunity to win that fight, but got the loss. And against Luke Sanders, who it's a tougher fight for him. It was more of Luke Sanders isn't great, but he's another up and coming guy that within the UFC. First round, Sukumta didn't look like he was doing anything. There was no damage really getting out there. Sanders was just picking him apart, and there was no volume. There was no volume from him. And that scares me when you look at this guy. That scares me. He ended up getting the knockout in the second round, knocked Sanders out on a counter hook. That that obviously, like I said, he's got the power, but he looks timid and he's not getting the volume out there. And against a guy like O'Malley, who I believe is going to continue to throw that volume out there but be more economical with his striking, I think he's going to be able to put him away. I think these guys don't like each other. I mean, there's no doubt that these two, you've seen some of the footage and what they're saying and how they're talking about the fight, and they're looking to just scrap right away. I think this is tailor-made to me. This is tailor-made for O'Malley to get this victory. UFC is backing him a lot. There's a lot of push for his brand. I think this fight was handpicked for O'Malley to get this victory on the main event, on the main card, and push his brand more at plus 115, 120, wherever you're placing your bet. I got it at 115. I put 1 unit down on that. I believe O'Malley is going to be able to get the victory, possibly the finish. And I think that with the height, a little bit of a height reach of 2 inches, the little bit of a reach by 2 inches, I just think he's going to be able to put together a nice win. I got O'Malley at 1 unit. Now, fight that I'm not going to get into, Struve versus Orlovsky. To me, I didn't like this fight at all to bet it. Orlovsky is 1-5 in his last 6. Struve, never really, came to his talent and how big he is. Nothing was really that exciting for me in this fight. I completely faded this fight. Didn't really feel one way or the other. Will watch it. Will be a nice fight to watch. Just didn't see any value in that fight. Now we're going to go to another 1 unit play. And then the next play I'm going to be talking about is my best bet pick. The 1 unit play here is Pedro Munoz versus John Dodson. Now, in this fight here, I had made this as one of my best bet picks going back a couple months or wherever it really was now at this point. And then Pedro Munoz did not make weight. The fight was canceled. They could have fought. Dodson said, "You're too high up in weight," and they decided to just quickly get this fight back scheduled on this card. So this is it's on the preliminary card on FS1. Now this fight here, you've got John Dodson. He is 3-3 in his last 6 fights. He's definitely fought a lot of top-level, strong competition throughout his career, so that part of it is definitely not new to him. He's a shake-and-bake kind of fighter. He'll go inside, pop a couple shots, bounce outside, pop back inside, quick combinations, move around the ring a lot. He likes to do a lot of that. That's kind of his MO of how he does things. Pedro Munoz is 6-2 in his last 8. And his only 2 losses are to Jimmy Rivera and Assunção. Those are 2 strong fighters within the division. And he pushed those fighters. So he's got ability there. He changed camps. Now he's at American Top Team. And American Top Team is known for strong leg kicks. That's just what they do. They'll enter combinations with the strong leg kick. They'll end combinations with the strong leg kick. Mix that with his wrestling. This could be a nice setup for Munoz to get this victory. It's a nice price tag at plus 140. John Dodson is minus 160. I think the plus 140 is great value here. I think he's got the opportunity to get this victory. He's extremely physical. He likes to tangle. He likes to explode with combinations. I think a lot of that is going to make it tough for Dodson. If you can get Dodson against the cage, which I think he can, he's going to do a lot of dirty boxing, get him to the ground, work his strong wrestling. If he gets him to the ground, I absolutely believe he can finish him on the ground. But I see in a 3-round fight, I see a sluggish Dodson not being able to do too much, and I see Munoz swarming him and getting him to the ground, making it an ugly fight, but getting the victory in a decision. I am going 1 unit on Pedro Munoz at plus 140. I believe that he's a physical, more stronger fighter with a big upside. I don't believe John Dodson has the upside. I think what John Dodson is what he is right now. He's a good fighter. Like I said, he's fought good good opponents. But Munoz, I believe he's going to continue to excel now that he's got to American Top Team and he's around the right guys. So I really believe this is going to push him. I got Pedro Munoz 1 unit at plus 140. Now my play of the event. Let's see here. Just to remind everybody now. So at this point, the best bet picks. We're 14-5 this year. We're plus 12.85 units. It's been strong. This one, we're going to go 2.5 units on this one. Katlyn Vieira and Kat Zingano is the play, and you've got Vieira at -150, and you've got Zingano at +140. So this play, and I see some places the odds are starting to move around now in this fight. You know, everybody knows Zingano. Everyone knows. Maybe they know her more for her looks, but everybody knows her. She's fought, you know, Ronda Rousey. She's fought some of the elite. She's lost to some of them, but she is a well-rounded fighter. Strong wrestling, BJJ black belt. She's able to take you down with a strong ground and pound. So you know what she is. Now you got Vieira, who I believe is a surging star within the UFC. She's 9-0, and you know, she's strong, and she's very well rounded. And I went back and I watched their last few fights for each of them. And again, Kat, the only thing with her is she hasn't won a fight in 3 years. She hasn't even been in the octagon in about 16 months. So that, to me, at 36 years old, is a huge red flag for a named fighter. And a lot of people have said to me, and there's been conversation, chat within the Fight Club, that people are talking about saying, oh, well, Kat, you know, she's so well-rounded, she's so this. She is. It's just where she is in her career. And I also had gotten pushback saying, well, they're pushing Kat to win this fight for a possible title fight. I believe that's possibly the case, but I believe it's for the other fighter. I believe it's for Vieira, that they are basically putting Zingano out there, pulling her back into the UFC, probably paid her a nice amount of money to have her come in actively. She's going through a lot in her life. Now, I'm not going to get into it, what going on with Kat Zingano and her personal life and things with her husband, and a lot of things are going on. I just believe that she's going through a lot right now. This is not the time for her at this point to really excel. And if you look back now at Vieira, I mean, she fought Ashley Evans-Smith and Sarah McMahon, and both fights I thought, which were big steps up for her, for Vieira. I thought she fought sensational in both fights. I mean, you've got Sarah McMahon, who's a silver medalist Olympic wrestler, and in that fight, standing, you know, Vieira definitely was outstriking her, and then once it got to the ground, you look at it and you say, this is probably where McMahon's going to end her. I mean, there was maybe 3.5 minutes in that first round, and Vieira was on the bottom of Sarah McMahon, and she held her own. I was very surprised the way that she held her own against an Olympic wrestler. So there she was able to survive that first round. Second round came out, and she was able to finish Sarah McMahon. So, I mean, it's just, she's got that ability, well-rounded, she's able to stand and strike, and she's also able to really handle herself on the ground. Then again, Ashley Evans-Smith, strong striker. She ended up picking her apart in the win, and even there I thought this is going to be very tough for her too. And she looked great in both fights. So I honestly believe that at this point in their careers, I believe Ashley Evans-Smith and Sarah McMahon are a tougher opponent for where we are right now against Zingano. I don't think Zingano is going to be all there. I see Vieira in a really one-sided victory. Whether it ends early or whether it's a decision, I see if it's a decision, it's going to be a sweeping decision for Vieira. I don't think Zingano, even if Zingano gets to the ground, I don't think that's a good place for her even to be, also because Vieira is strong on the ground. So I see a one-sided victory for Vieira. I'm doing 2.5 units at -150 as my best bet of the event. And again, we are 14-5 plus 12.85 units on best bet picks this year. So we are sticking with it. Katlyn Vieira will get the victory at UFC 222 best bet pick. And there you have it. Those are my three main plays that I am doing. And again, we're doing O'Malley at 1 unit. We're doing Pedro Munoz at 1 unit, and the best bet pick, we're doing Vieira at 2.5 units, and I do have a half a unit on Ortega in a fight. Basically, hey, it's, you know, I said I'd do it, so I got to bet the half a unit on Ortega. So there you have it, UFC 222. Enjoy it. Hopefully, we're gonna have some wins here and cash in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. We got some giveaways that we're going to do here at the Fight Club. So stay tuned for more Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. Bye.